Welcome to this edition of Head to Head. I'm your host, Cam McKinney, and this is episode number 416 of the podcast. And on this episode, I'm talking about run prevention. Yes, a term I've heard a lot this year in baseball, run prevention, and I really started to hear about it this offseason, linked to the moves of two teams specifically, the New York Mets and the Boston Red Sox. Before I get into the specifics involving those teams, I wanted to explain a little bit about what run prevention is. Well, it's in the name. The idea being that a team plans on winning baseball games mainly through pitching and defense. And as you can imagine, the teams that have taken to this strategy are the ones who lack good offenses. But it's worth noting the fact that both the Mets and the Red Sox let two of their best position players walk this offseason, Pete Alonso, who went from the Mets to the Orioles, and Alex Bregman, who left the Red Sox for the Cubs. And instead of replacing those bats in the lineup, the teams chose pitching, the Mets with Freddie Peralta and the Red Sox with Ranger Suarez. These teams have embraced the idea of run prevention. Here's what the man who runs the Red Sox, Craig Breslow, told Chris Cotillo of Mass Live after the signing of Ranger Suarez, quote, "I don't think there's a question anymore that the identity of our team and the strength of our team is going to be our pitching and our ability to prevent runs," end quote. And on the other side, you have David Stearns of the New York Mets at the end of last season at a press conference said the following, quote, "Run prevention is where we fell short this year. It's where we need to get better," end quote. As of this recording, here's where we stand with these two teams. The Red Sox are in last place in the AL East with a 21-27 record, while the Mets are in last place in the NL East with an identical 21-27 record. And in some ways, these teams were self-aware. They are bad offensively. The Mets are 24th in home runs, 23rd in runs, and 24th in batting average, while the Red Sox are 29th in home runs, 29th in runs, and 16th in batting average. And lo and behold, the strength of both teams are their pitching staffs. The Mets are 10th in ERA with a 3.82, and the Red Sox are 8th with a 3.69 earned run average. I believe there are so many conversations you can have about the idea of run prevention. One of them being, can a baseball team solely win games with good pitching and good defense? And I think the answer is yes. But you have to have a different mentality than the one the Red Sox and the Mets have. You need to win playing small ball. I mean, I watch the Red Sox almost every night. They go base to base. They are a singles team, which is why it is really hard for them to consistently score runs. The larger conversation being had is coming from the fan bases of both of these teams. Is this just about the fact that the Red Sox and Mets do not want to spend big money on bats? I mean, that sounds crazy when talking about a team that not long ago in the New York Mets gave Juan Soto over $700 million, yet they were not willing to give $130 to Pete Alonso. And in the case of the Red Sox, they gave Ranger Suarez $130 million, but were not willing to give Alex Bregman $175 million. Maybe it was all over a no trade clause, but if that is the case, that's really silly. Being cheap is one thing, but what's worse is the possible reality that Stearns and Breslow thought that their teams could end up better without those players, that they really do believe in the ideology of run prevention. I think fans of these teams have a right to be angry because not only are the teams not winning baseball games, but the products that they're putting out onto the field are not that entertaining because fans don't don't really go to the ballpark to watch really good starting pitching and defense. They go to the ballpark because they want to see offense. Whenever the Red Sox have been one of the better teams in all of baseball, they have had great offensive talent. You know the names: David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez. Then you go to Mookie Betts, Rafael Devers, JD Martinez. A guy you go, when that guy comes up to bat, I am going to put down whatever I am doing and I am going to watch that entire at-bat because it feels like a big moment. That is what the Red Sox are currently lacking. They lack a bat where you go, this is the moment. This is where the game is going to change. And yes, Red Sox fans and Red Sox media would argue that they thought that that guy was going to be Roman Anthony, and he has struggled early, and now he's missing games due to an injury. But that was way too much to ask for a young player like that, and I feel like the Mets did a similar thing with Mark Vientos. I mean, yes, I think Mark Vientos has the capability of becoming a guy who, on average, can hit 30 homers a season, but he's not there yet. He's not at the end of his development. And yet for the Mets to be any good, they were asking him to be an all-star caliber player. And in the case of Roman Anthony, the Red Sox were basically asking him to be like an MVP type of player for them to be a really good team this year. I want to focus on Craig Breslow for a minute because I don't really know if I buy that he believes in run prevention. I feel like he really wanted to bring Alex Bregman back, and that didn't happen, and then he had to pivot. So his big pivot was, I'm going to make this team all about pitching and defense. At least with David Stearns, I believe he believes in run prevention. I mean, he got rid of Pete Alonso. He really had a problem with that guy. He got rid of Brandon Nimmo. And yes, you could say that I'm giving David Stearns the benefit of the doubt because he has a history of building really good, solid baseball teams with the Milwaukee Brewers. Like, this is a guy who I think knows what he's doing. Whereas Craig Breslow is in a tough spot. I mean, his first job as an executive running a team is for the Boston Red Sox, and he's had to trade away Rafael Devers, now fire the manager. And I do think it was a mistake for him to publicly proclaim himself as one of the faces of run prevention. I mean, these are the two teams that people talk about when it comes to run prevention because all they did in the offseason was talk about run prevention and how that was going to help them win baseball games. So when you get off to a dreadful start where your offenses are two of the worst in baseball, people are going to have strong opinions. There are people out there that have positive opinions about the future of these baseball teams. I mean, in the case of the New York Mets, Bo Bichette is really starting to hit the cover out of the baseball. And if that team gets going, they get back Francisco Lindor, then they have the 1-2-3 punch of Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, and Bo Bichette. One could imagine they could potentially make the wild card round. And the Red Sox, they have a hot bat in Wilson Contreras. Hopefully you get Roman Anthony back and he plays like the guy you thought he was going to be. Jarren Duran is starting to hit the ball. But that's really where you lose me on this idea of run prevention. So in order for you to win baseball games as a team with elite pitching, you need an above average offense. The Red Sox and Mets need to start hitting in order to become a winning baseball team. I mean, so many people out there think the Red Sox need to make a trade for the big bat, and the same goes for the New York Mets. The failure here for me is trying to choose your own identity as a baseball team. That bothers me. You don't need to choose. You are the Boston Red Sox, and you are the New York Mets. You can have the best offensive players in the game and the best pitchers to go along with it. You don't need to pick one or the other. The Dodgers have good pitching and good hitting. The Yankees have good pitching and good hitting. Those are the teams that people think have a chance of winning the World Series. Deep down, I don't believe that Craig Breslow thought that this was a team that was going to rely on run prevention. I think that he thought Roman Anthony was going to play like an MVP candidate. I think he thought Marcelo Meyer would be more developed than he is offensively, and that Caleb Durbin would take the next step from being a Rookie of the Year candidate just last season. And same goes for the Mets. The Mets thought that Bo Bichette would get off to a better start, that Marcus Semien would be what he's been in the past, an elite offensive player, that Francisco Alvarez and Mark Vientos would take that next step forward. Both of these teams thought they would be way better offensively than they currently are, to the point where I believe they thought their offenses were going to be a pleasant surprise all season long. I just find it so interesting that not only are fans upset that Breslow didn't bring back Bregman and that Stearns didn't bring back Alonso, they are also equally upset with the idea of you using the term run prevention to describe the type of team you want to build. I mean, these are bigger markets. David Stearns could be using this exact term in Milwaukee and people would be calling him a genius, but he's saying it as the man running the New York Mets, the team that just spent over $700 million on one individual player. And yes, I think Red Sox fans like the fact that they have a good trio of pitchers in Garrett Crochet, Ranger Suarez, and Sonny Gray, but they also want that generational bat in the lineup. Last week on the podcast, I was talking about how the Phillies have seemingly turned their season around because of offense, because the guys on that roster are starting to play like the offensive players we know them to be. And I don't really know if that's going to happen for either the Red Sox or the Mets. At least the Mets have the big names. We expect Francisco Lindor to hit when he gets back. Juan Soto is always consistent, and Bo Bichette is really starting to get going. So that obviously should give you hope, but where are the Red Sox going to get hope offensively? I mean, they have Wilson Contreras. Trevor Story is currently hurt. Where is the power going to come from? I don't think Roman Anthony is going to come off of the IL and finish the season with 25 or more home runs. I think that's a pipe dream. And no, I don't think they're going to make some magical trade for Yordan Alvarez. That's not going to happen. I mean, that would be Craig Breslow admitting he was wrong about the team in the first place. Right? That's why I'm weary of either of these teams making that big trade for that big bat and spending real money on an offensive player, because that would be Breslow and Stearns admitting that they were wrong about how they built these teams. And I don't think either are willing to do that at this point. I think that's why Craig Breslow got rid of Alex Cora, because he thinks he has the pieces to turn the Red Sox around in-house. I think in the future, baseball executives should ignore this term altogether. They should never say the phrase run prevention, because it turned them into the faces of this. I mean, when people talk about David Stearns, they're talking about run prevention. When people talk about the Red Sox and Breslow, they're talking about and mocking the idea of run prevention. Right? Like, instead of Craig Breslow saying, I'm signing Ranger Suarez because I'm reacting to the fact that we lost Alex Bregman, instead he said, no, this was my plan all along. This is my master plan, that we are going to be a team with elite pitching and elite defense, and that is going to be enough for us to win enough baseball games to make the playoffs. And David Stearns basically said, I don't need the guy who's hit the most home runs since he entered the majors in Pete Alonso. I need to lose that guy, and we need to get better at pitching and defense. That is going to anger a lot of people. I mean, Pete Alonso is the all-time leader in home runs for the New York Mets. It doesn't really matter how I or anyone feels about these individuals as executives right now, it just feels like they're on short leashes. Like, I don't know for certain that next year David Stearns is going to be running the New York Mets, and I don't know if Craig Breslow is going to be the man in charge in Boston, because publicly those fan bases blame these two more than anyone else in these organizations. I don't think Red Sox fans really blamed Alex Cora, even though I think he was a big problem. I think they look at Craig Breslow and go, you don't know how to build a team in Boston. We need superstars offensively. We needed Alex Bregman back to guide a guy like Roman Anthony to becoming a superstar player. And fans of the Mets look at Stearns and say, you've gotten rid of all of our fan favorite players. You failed to bring back Pete Alonso. You traded away Brandon Nimmo, and you lost Edwin Diaz to the Dodgers. Everyone loves to talk about the fact that the Red Sox are now acting like they are a small market team. I think it's more surprising and frustrating that since the Mets got Juan Soto, that they too have acted like a small market team. I mean, you spent over $700 million on one baseball player. You need to be in win now mode. I get it. There are some outside controversies. Maybe Lindor and Juan Soto are not best friends. I still think you should be winning way more baseball games. I obviously believe that Pete Alonso should still be a member of the New York Mets. Fans of both teams were cautiously optimistic. I remember the Red Sox losing out on Bregman and then getting Ranger Suarez and thinking to myself, maybe they're on to something. And then with the Mets, they lost Pete Alonso, but then they got Freddie Peralta, and it was like, maybe they're on to something. The reality is this: the Red Sox should have gotten Ranger Suarez and brought back Alex Bregman. The Mets should have gone out and gotten Freddie Peralta while also bringing back Pete Alonso. These are the type of baseball teams that should be able to have everything. They don't need to pick and choose between offense and pitching. I mean, the great Red Sox teams of my time, 2007, 2013, 2018, even going back to 2004, they had great offensive players and they had great pitching to go along with it. That is how you win the World Series. You don't pick and choose. And the Mets just don't learn from their mistakes. I mean, a few years ago, they went all in on starting pitching. Remember, they had Justin Verlander. They had Max Scherzer. They thought they had the greatest rotation ever assembled. They were wrong. You need to be a complete, all-around baseball team if you want people to take you seriously. I mean, it is so crazy how much in common these two teams have right now. I mean, they both obsess about run prevention. They both got rid of offensive stars in the offseason, and both fan bases have the same issues with the organizations. It's obviously worth pointing out that we are still not even into June, and both of these teams could salvage their years. Yes, they are hitting the ball better right now, but you could only go up from where they were. I just don't know if either team can really get back into the race and be looked at as a serious contender. I wonder which of these teams are willing to make the shocking trade to try to turn things around. Is David Stearns going to make a trade that's going to say, hey, I was wrong, this team needs offense? I mean, I'm not the only one who feels this way about the Red Sox, but they have enough starting pitching where they should trade one of their young arms, Payne Tolley or Connor Lee early, and try to get a big bat, because they should be winning games right now. I think the Mets are probably in win now mode more so than the Boston Red Sox, but both teams should be desperate to try to turn themselves into a postseason team. No matter how things shape out for either organization, both of them have to stop using the term run prevention. Stop using it. It did you no good to tell everybody your master plan, because when you do that, you make fans realize that maybe the offensive players you got rid of were never the problem in the first place. Maybe you are the problem. The majority of Mets fans believe that David Stearns is the problem. The majority of fans of the Boston Red Sox believe that Craig Breslow is the problem. They need to turn that around, or they're not going to be long for their current jobs. This is the last thing I'll say on the matter. I think using the term run prevention even puts way too much pressure on a pitching staff. Yes, the trio of Garrett Crochet, Sonny Gray, and Ranger Suarez are really good, but let's not make it out to be like something it isn't. These aren't free guys who are going to win 20 plus games. Garrett Crochet is an ace, Sonny Gray is a really good pitcher, and Ranger Suarez is an all-star caliber type of pitcher, but the Red Sox have not assembled the greatest pitching staff of all time, and neither has the New York Mets. Thanks for listening to this edition of Head to Head. I'm Cam McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every week on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so please rate, review, and subscribe.